We caught a burglar breaking into our house. What my neighbor did next made him cry. The crash came from my living room at 2:19 in the morning. I was wide awake instantly, phone already in my hand before my brain fully processed what I'd heard. Glass breaking. Someone was inside my house. I lived alone in a small rental on Maple Street, and the sound of my front window shattering sent ice through my veins. I should have called 911 immediately, should have locked my bedroom door and waited for police, but I grabbed the baseball bat from under my bed and crept toward my bedroom door instead. Through the crack, I could see a figure in dark clothes climbing through my broken window. He was young, maybe early 20s, moving clumsily like he'd never done this before. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped his flashlight twice. I pulled out my phone and started recording, getting clear footage of his face as he looked around my living room. That's when he saw me standing in the hallway with my bat raised and my phone pointed at him. His eyes went wide with pure panic. He tried to scramble back through the window but got stuck halfway, his jacket caught on the broken glass. I yelled for Victor, my elderly neighbor whose house shared a wall with mine. Victor was 73 years old and had moved here from Ukraine 40 years ago. Within seconds, I heard his back door slam and saw porch lights flipping on across the street. The burglar finally freed himself from the window and stumbled into my front yard, but Victor's ancient German shepherd, Maxim, had escaped through Victor's open gate and was now blocking the sidewalk. Maxim wasn't aggressive, just confused and excited, tail wagging while this stranger tried desperately to get past him. The dog kept moving to block every escape route, thinking they were playing some kind of game. I ran outside with my bat still raised, positioning myself between the burglar and the street. Victor came running around the corner in his bathrobe and slippers, moving faster than I'd ever seen him move. The burglar was trapped in my front yard, surrounded by me, Victor, and an overly friendly German shepherd who thought this was the best night ever. "Please, I'm sorry," the burglar said, hands up. "I didn't mean to. I've never done this before, I swear." His voice cracked on the last word, and I could see he was genuinely terrified. He looked even younger up close, maybe 19 or 20, with acne scars on his cheeks and clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. Victor walked up to him slowly, studying his face in the streetlight. "You break into my neighbor's home? This is what you do on Monday night?" His thick accent made every word sound heavier. The burglar nodded miserably, tears starting to stream down his face. I dialed 911 and explained the situation. The dispatcher told me officers were responding, but it would be at least 30 minutes. There'd been a massive pileup on the interstate and every available unit was tied up. 30 minutes was a long time to stand in my front yard with someone who'd just broken into my house. "What is your name?" Victor asked the burglar, his voice surprisingly gentle. The kid hesitated before answering. "Derek." Victor nodded thoughtfully. "Derek, you are cold. You are scared. Come inside. We wait for police together where it is warm." I stared at Victor like he'd lost his mind. This guy just broke into my house and Victor wanted to invite him in for what? Tea? But Victor was already walking toward his front door, gesturing for us to follow. Derek looked at me desperately, probably hoping I'd talk Victor out of whatever this was. But curiosity won over common sense, and I followed them inside, bat still gripped tight in my hands. Victor's house smelled like baked bread and old books. Every surface was covered with photos of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Religious icons hung on the walls next to framed degrees and certifications from his years working as an engineer. It felt wrong to be here with someone who'd just committed a crime, but Victor was already in the kitchen making noise with pots and pans. "Sit," Victor commanded, pointing at his dining table. Derek sat slowly, looking like he was waiting for a trap to spring. Maxim settled at his feet immediately, resting his gray muzzle on Derek's shoe. I remained standing near the door, phone still recording everything. Victor returned with 3 mugs of tea and a plate of cookies that looked homemade. He sat across from Derek and studied him with intense brown eyes. "So, you are burglar now. This is your career choice. Tell me why." Derek stared at his teacup, hands wrapped around it like he was trying to absorb the warmth. "I need money. I owe people and they're going to hurt me if I don't pay them back." His voice was barely above a whisper. "How much do you owe?" Victor asked. Derek mumbled something that sounded like $3,000. Victor made a disapproving sound with his tongue. "3,000. And you think breaking into houses will solve this problem? You think you get $3,000 from stealing television and laptop? Maybe you get $200 from pawn shop if you are very lucky. And then you go to prison for 5 years. The math does not work, young man." I checked the time. We'd been here 15 minutes, and Derek was now crying openly into his tea, while Victor lectured him about basic economics of crime. This was the strangest home invasion aftermath I could have imagined. "When I came to America, I had nothing," Victor continued. 40 years ago, I arrived with 1 suitcase and $40 in my pocket. Cannot speak English. Have no job, no friends, no family here. Do you know what I did?" Derek shook his head. "I worked. Hard labor jobs that Americans did not want. Cleaning toilets, washing dishes, digging ditches. I saved every penny and I learned. And now I have house, I have grandchildren, I have good life, because I made choices to build instead of to steal." Derek's shoulders were shaking now. "I don't know how to do that. I dropped out of high school. Can't get a job anywhere because I don't have experience. My girlfriend left me and took all our money. I'm staying in my car because I got evicted last month. The guys I owe aren't patient. They said if I don't have their money by Friday, they're going to break my legs. Victor leaned forward. Who are these people? Give me names. Derek looked terrified at the suggestion. I can't. They'll kill me if they know I talked to anyone. Then you are already dead if you do not make changes, Victor said matter-of-factly. You keep stealing, you go to prison. You do not pay these criminals. They hurt you. You have no good options unless you make different choice. You must decide what kind of man you want to be. I'd been silent this whole time, but I had to know something. Why my house? Why tonight? Derek glanced at me and quickly looked away, shame written across his face. Your window was unlocked. I saw you leave your light on and thought maybe you weren't home. I wasn't planning to hurt anyone. I'm desperate. Victor stood up suddenly. You are hungry. You cannot make good decisions on empty stomach. He disappeared into the kitchen before either of us could respond. Minutes later, he was cooking eggs and sausage at 3 a.m, humming while he worked. The absurdity of the situation hit me fully. I was standing in my neighbor's house with a burglar while an elderly Ukrainian man made breakfast and lectured about life choices. My phone buzzed. The police dispatcher was calling to update me that officers were still another 10 minutes out. Victor slid a full plate in front of Derek and sat back down. Eat. Derek picked up his fork hesitantly, looking at me for permission. I just shrugged. Nothing about this night made sense anymore. While Derek ate, Victor asked about his family. Derek admitted his mother was in Arizona, but they hadn't spoken in 3 years. His father died when he was 12. He had a younger sister somewhere in foster care that he lost touch with. Victor listened to all of this while refilling Derek's plate and offering more food. Everyone needs family, Victor said quietly. Not always blood family. Sometimes family is people who choose to care about you, to guide you. You have no one? Derek shook his head, still eating. Then you make terrible choices because you have no reason not to. No one to disappoint. No one to make proud. This is very sad, but also fixable. The police arrived right as Derek finished his second plate of food. Officers Brennan and Talbot looked confused when they walked into what appeared to be a friendly dinner, rather than a detained criminal. Victor greeted them cheerfully. This is Derek. He breaks into my neighbor's window. Very poor technique. Also very poor life circumstances. I think he needs help more than punishment. Officer Brennan looked at me. You're the victim? I nodded and showed him the video on my phone of Derek breaking in. Brennan watched it and turned to Derek. Stand up and put your hands behind your back. Derek stood slowly, setting his fork down carefully. He looked at Victor with an expression I can only describe as confused gratitude mixed with deep shame. Thank you for the food, Derek said quietly. I'm sorry about everything. Victor waved his hand dismissively. Window can be fixed. You are harder to repair, but maybe this is your wake-up call. Officer Talbot was putting handcuffs on Derek when Victor interrupted. Do I have to press charges? What if I choose different path? Officer Brennan frowned. Sir, this man broke into your neighbor's property. That's a serious crime. He breaks my neighbor's window, yes, Victor corrected. And I am old man with good insurance. He is young man with no future unless someone helps him. He turned to me. What do you think? Do we send him to jail, or do we try something else? I looked at Derek, really looked at him. He was just a kid, obviously in over his head, clearly not a career criminal. What are you proposing? Victor smiled and pulled out his wallet. He handed Derek a business card. My nephew owns construction company. Always needs workers. You call him tomorrow. You tell him Uncle Victor sends you. You work hard. You stay away from criminals who want your money. You start rebuilding your life properly. But if I hear you are breaking into houses again, I will be very angry. And you do not want to make me angry. The transformation in Derek's face was immediate. Hope mixed with disbelief. You're serious? You'd actually help me after I tried to rob your neighbor? Victor nodded firmly. I am old man who believes people can change if someone gives them chance. But this is only chance. You waste it, there is no second opportunity. You understand? Derek nodded so hard I thought his neck might snap. Officer Brennan ran Derek's information and confirmed he had no prior record. Against my better judgment, Brennan said slowly, if you're not pressing charges, we can issue a citation for criminal mischief and trespassing. He'll have to appear in court, but if the victim doesn't pursue it, the charges might be dropped. I agreed not to press charges if Derek actually followed through with Victor's nephew. Brennan wasn't happy about it, but filled out the paperwork. Before they left, he pulled Derek aside and gave him what looked like a serious warning about second chances and not wasting them. After everyone left, Victor and I stood in my driveway as the sun started coming up. You think I'm foolish, old man? Victor said. It wasn't a question. I admitted that letting a burglar go seemed risky. Victor nodded. Maybe I am foolish. Maybe he breaks into more houses tomorrow. But also maybe not. And I think maybe not is worth trying for. Besides, what does jail do for a young man like that? He learns to be better criminal. Comes out angrier. More desperate. This solves nothing. I went home and boarded up my broken window, then crashed for a few hours. When I woke up that afternoon, I had a text from an unknown number. This is Derek. I called Victor's nephew. I start work Monday. Thank you for not pressing charges. I won't let you down. I screenshot it and sent it to Victor, who responded with a simple smiley face emoji. Monday came and I was leaving for work when I saw Victor outside watering his garden. He waved me over excitedly. You will not believe Derek called my nephew Andre, and they talked for 1 hour. Andre gives him chance. Also, Derek called his mother yesterday. First time in 3 years. They talked for 2 hours and she cried. Victor looked so pleased with himself I couldn't help but smile. But that wasn't the end of the story. Not even close. 2 weeks later, I came home to find my window broken again. My heart stopped. Had Derek come back? Had I been an idiot to trust Victor's instincts? But when I looked closer, I realized the break pattern was different. Someone had thrown a rock through it from outside. Taped to the rock was a note. Pay what you owe, or next time it's worse. I called Victor immediately, and he came over with Andre, his nephew. Andre was a massive guy, probably 6'4", arms like tree trunks. Derek told me this might happen, Andre said grimly. The people he owes money to found out he's working instead of stealing. They're mad because it means he's not earning money for them. Victor called Derek, who showed up 20 minutes later in his work clothes, covered in drywall dust. His face went pale when he saw my window. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. They must have followed me here. He pulled out an envelope from his pocket. I have $400. It's all I've made so far. Take it for the window. I pushed the money back. Keep it. You need it more than I do. But we need to deal with these people before this escalates. Derek explained that he owed money to a guy named Callahan, who ran a small-time operation out of a bar downtown. Callahan loaned money at ridiculous interest rates to desperate people and sent his crew to collect when payments were missed. Victor had a plan that sounded completely insane. He wanted to confront Callahan directly and negotiate Derek's debt down. Andre agreed to come along as muscle. Derek was terrified, but finally agreed when Victor pointed out that running forever wasn't a life. We all went to the bar that night, and I came along to document everything with my phone. Callahan was exactly what you'd expect a low-level loan shark to look like. Mid-50s, greasy hair, gut hanging over his belt, gold chains around his neck. He was playing pool when we walked in, and his face darkened when he saw Derek. You've got some balls showing up here. Victor stepped forward. We are here to discuss Derek's debt. How much does he actually owe you? Callahan laughed. Who's this, your grandpa? Derek owes me $3,000 plus interest. That's now $4,500, and it goes up another $500 every week he doesn't pay. That is illegal usury, Victor said calmly. Also, Derek is 19 years old, cannot legally enter into loan contract without parent or guardian signature. This debt is not enforceable. Callahan's face turned red. I don't give a damn about legal. He took my money, he pays it back, or I break his legs. That's the law that matters. Andre stepped forward, all 6'4" of him. You threaten people like this? You send thugs to break windows? His voice was quiet, but dangerous. Callahan's pool buddies stood up, trying to look intimidating, but Andre pulled out his phone. I record everything. You just admit to loan sharking and threats. I send this to police right now unless we make deal. Callahan's eyes flickered with uncertainty. Victor pressed the advantage. Here is deal. Derek pays you $2,000. Not $4,500, not $3,000. Just $2,000. He pays $400 now and $200 per month for 8 months. You leave him alone, you do not send people to his work, you do not break any more windows, or we go to police with recording of your threats. The standoff lasted maybe 30 seconds but felt like hours. Finally, Callahan spat on the floor. Fine, but if he misses one payment, the deal is off and I double it. Derek handed over the $400 in cash. Andre took a photo of Callahan holding the money to document the partial payment. We left quickly before anyone changed their mind. In the parking lot, Derek was shaking so hard he could barely stand. I can't believe that worked. I thought we were all going to get killed. Victor patted his shoulder. Sometimes you must face your fears instead of running. Now you have path forward. You work, you pay, you build better life. That could have been the end of it, but life is never that simple. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Derek. He sounded panicked. I got arrested. I'm at the county jail. They're saying I violated probation from something 2 years ago that I didn't even know about. Victor and I went to the jail to figure out what happened. Turned out Derek had been arrested for shoplifting 2 years earlier when he was 17. He was supposed to complete community service but never did because he'd moved and lost track of the paperwork. Now there was a warrant, and he was looking at 6 months in jail. We hired a lawyer named Sophia, who specialized in cases like this. She worked with the prosecutor to show Derek's recent transformation, his job with Andre, his payment plan with Callahan. She presented letters from Victor, Andre, and even me, describing the changes he'd made. The judge was skeptical, but agreed to let Derek complete the community service now instead of serving jail time. He had 90 days to finish 200 hours. Derek worked construction during the day and did community service at night, cleaning up parks and assisting at a homeless shelter. I went with him sometimes to make sure he was actually doing it. We'd work side by side picking up trash or serving meals, and Derek would talk about his life, his regrets, his hopes for the future. He'd reconnected with his younger sister through social services and was trying to get visitation rights. The 90 days came and went. Derek completed his community service with 2 weeks to spare. The judge signed off on his completion and dismissed the old warrant. For the first time in his life, Derek had a completely clean record. He celebrated by taking Victor to dinner at a nice restaurant. using money he'd saved from work. But the real test came 5 months after that first break-in. I was home on a Saturday when Derek showed up at my door. He looked different now, healthier, more confident. He was wearing clean work clothes and had gained some weight from eating regularly. "I wanted to show you something," he said, handing me a check. It was made out to me for $450. "What's this?" I asked. Derek explained that after making his last payment to Callahan, he'd been saving money to repay me for the 2 windows he'd cost me. "You never asked for anything, but I owe you. Both windows cost about $225 each. This covers it plus a little extra for your trouble." I tried to push the check back, but Derek insisted. "Please, I need to do this. I need to prove I'm not that person anymore." So I took the check and immediately used it to take Victor out for dinner, where I told him the whole story. Victor cried actual tears, something I'd never seen before. 1 year after Derek broke my window, Victor threw a party celebrating his 74th birthday. The whole neighborhood came, including Derek and his mother, who'd flown in from Arizona. Derek had been promoted to crew supervisor at Andre's company. He'd enrolled in online classes to get his GED. His relationship with his mother was slowly healing. Most importantly, he'd been clean from all criminal activity for a full year. At the party, Derek gave a speech thanking Victor for seeing something in him that he couldn't see in himself. "A year ago, I was breaking into houses because I had no hope and no options. Today, I have a job I'm good at. I'm reconnecting with my family, and I'm planning for my future. All because one old man decided kindness was worth trying. None of you had to help me, but you did. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure your faith in me wasn't misplaced." Victor stood up and hugged Derek while everyone applauded. "You did the work," Victor said. "I only opened door. You walked through it." I watched this moment and thought about all the ways that night could have gone differently. If I'd been more aggressive, if Victor had been less compassionate, if the police had arrested Derek immediately, the whole trajectory of a young man's life had changed because one person chose to try kindness instead of punishment. 2 years after the break-in, Derek started his own handyman business with money he'd saved and a small business loan Andre co-signed. He hired his first employee, a kid in a similar situation to where Derek had been. I watched him become not just a business owner but a mentor, teaching someone else the lessons Victor had taught him. Victor was so proud he bought Derek a new van for the business with his company name printed on the side, Second Chance Services. 3 years later, I moved to a different city for work, but I stayed in touch with Victor and Derek through regular video calls and occasional visits. Derek's business had grown to 4 employees. He'd bought his own house. His sister had moved in with him after aging out of foster care. Victor's health was declining, but he was happy, surrounded by people he'd helped over the years. When Victor passed away 4 years after that first night, Derek gave the eulogy at his funeral. He talked about how one moment of kindness from a stranger had saved his life, how Victor had seen past his worst decision and believed he could be better. "The world is full of people who give up on others," Derek said. Victor never gave up on anyone. He invested in people's potential, and I'm living proof that his investment paid off. Today, Derek's business employs 12 people, most of them second-chance hires like he was. He volunteers at the jail teaching classes about construction trades. He's gotten engaged to a woman he met through his church. When people ask about his success, he always mentions that night he tried to break into my house and met a 73-year-old Ukrainian man who decided to make him tea instead of calling the police. It's become his origin story, the night his life could have ended but instead truly began. And every time I tell this story, I think about Victor's words. Maybe he wastes this chance, but maybe not, and maybe not is worth trying for.